Hey gang, welcome to another episode of Real Deal Property Sharks. I'm your host, Jersey Mike. And as I always say, I'm the real deal. And of course, you know my two co-hosts, lovely Deborah Face, the face of real estate. And of course, good old Coach Nick. Nick, I hope you didn't bring that dog with you today. Did you bring that dog?
Still biting my ankles, Mike.
I
can't get rid of this little sucker.
Anyway, today, folks, okay, because we like to break the show up. We try to give some, besides all the craziness and zaniness, we like to also give out some good information. So today, our lovely co-host, Deborah Face, she has a special guest with her today, one of her colleagues. And Deborah, would you like to introduce him, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. Yes, today, a good friend and colleague of mine, Justin Kiehne, who's from Fortitude Financial Group. He's with us today. Welcome, Justin. Nice to have you.
Hey, Justin.
Happy to be here. I appreciate the intro, guys.
Absolutely.
What's up, Justin?
So Justin, you handle a lot of 1031 exchanges, and I know some people know what they are and some people don't. Can you give us a little bit of a description of what it is, why people would want to use them, and how is it being affected by the coronavirus pandemic?
Sure.
What's going on with that? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep it brief. I don't want to bore anybody. I know Jersey Mike here is the run of the show. Likes to bring the entertainment.
I'm the
so we'll leave
janitor.
plenty
I
of
just
time
take
for
out
that.
the garbage.
Wow, he knows that already.
It's the Jersey Mike cartel. Who are you kidding? Come on, Mike. Fess
Absolutely.
Oh, it's going to be a rough ride. I hope you got a seatbelt on.
I'm strapped in, man. I'm ready to go.
Be strapped in.
Well, my group, Fortitude Investment Group, and again, thanks for the introduction, guys. Thanks for having me on. Seems like you're getting a lot of traction with these, and people are obviously enjoying it. So I'll try to bring a little bit of information here, but we deal primarily in like-kind exchanges, 1031 exchanges. It's a section of the IRS tax code that allows real estate investors to defer paying capital gains taxes. What this means is that if you're somebody that owns a single rental property or a couple of rental properties, or maybe some commercial properties, you bought them for one price, and you bought it because real estate appreciates. So you bought it for one price, and when you go to sell it, it's a higher price. And when you sell that, Uncle Sam, the mob boss that he is gonna break your kneecaps and come calling for his piece of that capital gain.
Good analogy, Justin.
Well, no, it is. No, they are like the government.
Listen,
they're like the mafia. Only the mafia takes your fingers and they take your house and your car.
Everybody wants to
absolutely. But they're going to take a piece of that, and depending on what your income level is, it might be 20%, might be 30%. In the commercial real estate world, that's a tax bill of millions of dollars. That's a check that you're writing Uncle Sam. Nobody wants to do that. So what the like-kind exchange allows you to do is when you sell property number one, if you reinvest that money into the real estate market, you buy another property. You don't pay those capital gains taxes to the government on this exchange. And it's a deferral, it's not a total elimination. But what you see in the world of 1031 exchanges is you see folks that do this for 40 or 50 years and they pass away and their heirs inherit their properties at a stepped up cost basis, we call it, and then don't owe any capital gains on those properties.
Can you explain what a stepped up basis is? What's a basis?
So the cost basis of a piece of real estate is what you pay for it. So if I bought a rental property, let's say for $200,000 10 years ago, and it's worth $500,000 today when I sell it, my cost basis is the money that I put in. It's $200,000. If I did any renovations, to the property, let's say I bought for $200 and I put $50,000 into it, my cost basis is $250. And you're taxed on the difference between the cost basis and the sale price.
Right.
Okay, and a step up basis in the situation where the investor passes away and their kid or their heir inherits the property. What exactly is a step up basis so the audience understands that?
So if I purchase a property for $200,000 and it's worth $500,000 on the day that I die, my heirs, whoever they are, whoever it is that inherits that property, inherits it at a cost basis of $500,000. So they inherit it at $500,000 and they sell at $500,000 and they pay no capital gains taxes.
Wow. So
really?
if you do it, so if you do a 1031 exchange and you make that exchange, you don't realize a profit, and if you pass away, your heirs don't get banged by the government for the taxes. Wow, that's pretty cool. So what exactly is a like kind exchange?
It's just one piece of real estate into another piece of real estate. It used to be. Before the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act, it used to be that you could do 1031 exchanges with a lot of things. You can do it with art. You can do it with cars. Anything that you were selling for a higher price than you bought it. Your mom's stamp collection, anything that appreciated in value. Nowadays, it's just real estate, real property, we call that. But it really is a great tool for folks to build wealth through real estate. As you move along, as you acquire more properties, or as you sell a property and upgrade, it's a way to keep all that money working in the real estate as opposed to having to shave off some of it for Uncle Sam.
Now, Justin, there are certain ways that you have to go about doing it, a 1031 exchange. Can you explain that to everybody? There's a certain way that you have to do that. There's a certain time limit for
Tell me how to beat the mafia here.
Other than the
witness protection program. Okay.
I would never dare. Jersey Mike, you sound like you have a little more experience with the mafia than I do. I'm just a Maryland
I just watch
boy.
the movies. I just watch the movies.
Okay.
Everybody knows it doesn't exist. Come on, Mike.
It doesn't exist.
Okay.
Fantasy.
Although I just paid my membership dues.
Ever since Marlon Brando made that funny movie so many years ago, everybody thinks it exists.
Yeah.
But Justin, let me ask you this: are there any restrictions on what type of real property can be exchanged? I mean, can you go from, let's say, having an apartment building with 30 units for rentals to a strip mall, or does it have to be another apartment building?
Like kind is just real estate to real estate. There are some myths around it. People think that, if you own multifamily, you have to reinvest in multifamily. That's not the case.
That's what I
we do exchanges for clients from land into multifamily, something that doesn't cash flow into something that does cash flow. You do multifamily into industrial. With everything that's going on with the coronavirus right now, e-commerce is obviously huge. I mean, everybody's ordering everything online. Nobody goes to the store anymore.
Right.
And so if you're in kind of the business of warehouses, you're in the good business right now. So if you wanted to get out of something like multifamily or get out of something like retail sell, you could go into the industrial world, and that's considered like kind.
And again,
and does it have to be simultaneous? Like, does it have to happen on the same day, the purchase and the acquisition? Because I would guess there might be some finance issues if you have to do it exactly on the same day because you haven't sold property one yet, so you may not have the assets to purchase property two. Are there rules as to how quickly the transactions have to occur?
Yeah, there are rules involved, and they're pretty straightforward when you understand them. Folks come to us a lot of times, and they've heard this and they've heard that about the 1031 exchange. You have 45 days from the sale of your property to identify the property that you're going to replace it with, the property that you're going to buy. So you sell, you have 45 days to identify your replacement property, and then you have another 135 days to purchase that replacement property. And those rules are very strict. I mean, the IRS is, doesn't like to be messed with. But with the coronavirus shutdown that's going on, the IRS actually extended those guidelines. And so if the dates fall between April 15th and July 15th, the deadlines have been pushed to July 15th, which is a big relief for a lot of folks. I mean, it's hard to get out there and look around and find properties to buy if you're stuck at home.
Yeah, you're quarantined. Where are you going to go?
Right.
Yeah.
So what does your group do to help people that are seeking to do a 1031 like kind exchange?
So we facilitate the exchange. I mean, we do about $250 million worth of 1031 exchanges year on year. We work with folks from $100,000 investment condos all the way up to $176 million portfolio commercial real estate that a single family sold. Talk about a complicated transaction. There were 21 different LLCs and entities involved. My boss says it took 5 years off his life. So we facilitate the transaction, you know, and we also offer folks the opportunity to invest in larger assets. You can get fractional ownership of some very large, you know, multi-million-dollar assets that you wouldn't otherwise have access to.
And I would assume that you have a list of properties that are in the process of being exchanged, because you've got clients that are looking to exchange them. So you must have, like, you know, a whole, you know, category of properties for sale, correct?
Yeah, we have anywhere from 15 to 20 different large institutional commercial real estate properties that folks can get into as a fractional owner. You know, we're always doing exchanges. It's obviously a little bit more complicated with the economic shutdown. You know, we've had some folks where the buyers have backed out. We've had some other folks where they're being opportunistic and they realize that, you know, this is a historical event. Something like this is unprecedented, and you know, prices might fall as a result.
So let me ask you this. My understanding is that the 1031 exchanges basically apply because the seller is actually not realizing the appreciation at the time of the sale, because the money is theoretically being shifted over from one transaction to the new transaction. But we have a 45-day window. If they get the money in hand, technically they're realizing it, and I would presume that, you know, the IRS being the IRS, and I'm not a fan of the IRS, but
who is?
they would say, hey, wait a minute, this person realized the money, so I presume that the money has to be put in some kind of an escrow account, not so that it doesn't actually go to the person who's selling the property and trying to do the 1031 exchange. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. Yeah, I think Coach Nick is a hustler over here. He, you know, he's playing dumb.
Law school tax course actually helped, huh?
So let
me ask you this, Justin. Do you guys act as escrow agents to hold the money, so that the seller is not realizing it, or how does it typically work, or is it based on state by state? And how do you guys handle that?
So we don't act as the escrow agent. In the 1031 exchange, the escrow agent is called the qualified intermediary. A QI is the term we use. They do hold the money in escrow. Like you said, if I sell a property and I have the check sitting on my desk, it's considered me realizing that profit, and I'm taxed on it. So it's very important to have the QI. QIs are, the qualified intermediary world is a little bit interesting. It's not federally regulated. So you really want to work with the groups that are large, that have, strong reputations. Stewart Title, which is one of the largest title organizations in the U.S. Fidelity Title, one of the largest title organizations in the U.S. They have qualified intermediary arms. First American, for the folks at home that are in the real estate business. They have huge market capitalizations. These are billion-dollar companies, and so they can afford to have the right insurance in place to make sure that folks don't lose their money. A few years back, there were some qualified intermediaries that took possession of sale monies and ran off to the Bahamas, to the Bermuda, because it's
oh my God.
Yeah, who would have thought, right?
Hey, Jersey, are the bells ringing right now for you?
Like chimes. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
You make a couple calls to a couple of your uncles in Jersey, buddy.
I want to see if you forget about it. Hey,
call the Italian
Jersey
side, okay?
Qualified intermediary.
Very good.
So I guess they get like a small fee out of it, is pretty much the way it works out to help service that for the seller?
Yeah, so they actually invest the money into accounts that earn interest. So the money's there for 180 days or whatever the time frame of the reinvestment, and they're earning interest on that. And they charge some fees up front as well. It's a few $100s up to maybe $1,200. But if you're doing a transaction that is $1 million transaction and you otherwise owe Uncle Sam $200,000 in taxes, I think you're willing to pay $1,000. To keep that money in your pocket.
Sure,
right?
Sure. So I guess you probably had some pretty cool transactions where you've worked on. Without getting specific, have you had any pretty interesting stories with deals that you've done?
I mean, we've had everything under the sun. Like I said, it was a $176 million transaction. I mean, talk about being born with a silver spoon. This family, over generations had built a huge portfolio. When you're working with people like that, you realize that some parents aren't the greatest parents, and some kids grow up a little spoiled, but we work, yeah.
Do they live in
We work with a
Boca?
lot of cool folks.
I was gonna say, I think they're in Florida, right?
Boca.
No, that was a New York family.
Oh, there you go, New
As
York.
a special
Long
kind of.
Hey,
Island.
whoa, take it easy.
Island.
Take it easy, people. Stop hating.
Now, we
Stop
don't
hating. Anyway, I'm a Floridian. Can't you tell? I have a tan.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Why are you wearing sunglasses?
You're at the beach right now.
Yeah. Too bad it's gray and dark outside, which is usually not the way it is. So the coronavirus has had an impact. They've extended timelines. Have you seen anything else happening as a result of the coronavirus?
I mean, in commercial real estate as a whole, valuations change. So a property that was worth $3 million yesterday might not be worth that today. A lot of times properties are worth what they're worth because of the businesses that inhabit them. And with the economic shutdown, a lot of these businesses are no longer functioning. They're at risk of going under. And so there's a lot of uncertainty in the commercial real estate market as a whole.
Are you finding that there are more 1031s, less 1031s, or it's about
Less
the same?
1031s. Less
So,
1031s, definitely.
People just not moving.
Yeah, folks are fearful to sell or buy.
Wow,
I'm
interesting.
sure Deb's seeing some of that in the in the residential real estate space. What are you seeing, Deb, in terms of the volume of transactions that residential realtors are doing?
We have Debbie frozen over there. It looks like she might be frozen.
Debbie.
She's frozen. Come in,
Okay.
Debbie. Well,
Yeah, Debbie. She's
we
frozen.
keep on moving forward. It looks like her computer froze.
All right. Well, here we go. Here we go.
We
Here
lost
go.
Deborah.
Now,
All right. So anyway, Jersey, I know you got a couple of topics on this.
I got some.
Go
I
ahead.
got some humdinger
Justin,
today, boy.
I'm gonna let the dogs out now. Sorry, my
Yeah,
friend.
absolutely. Let the dog eat.
Okay, folks. I know I've said this before on other shows, and Justin, you better hold on to your seat because
I'm
the stuff
strapped in,
I'm
man.
about to tell you
I'm ready
is
to go.
really wacky, off the wall. But I do have a research department that researches everything, and I can guarantee you everything I'm about to tell you is true. Okay. Now,
He's not kidding. He's not kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. So on
He's
the
got his due
lighter side
diligence
of
in.
what's going on with
Important.
the coronavirus, okay, you ready for this? In
Let's go.
Bogota, we've all heard of Bogota, Colombia, okay, even though we heard that's a real, high, like, drug trafficking area, blah, 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 the Medellin cartel, yada, 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 okay, whatever.
Your bud.
Well, Bogota, believe it or not, is mostly a very conservative city, all right? So now because of the coronavirus, everybody's quarantined to their house. Well, believe it or not, all the sex shops that sell sex toys are running out of sex toys. Everybody's buying sex toys and being cleaned off the shelf, all right? And this doctor...
So, Justin, can we do a 10th? Never mind. Sorry.
I tell you what, man. Back in the day,
If you bought something...
Justin's got a comment, Jersey. Let him go.
What is it, Justin?
Go ahead, Justin.
back in the day, you could have done a 1031 exchange with just about anything. Listen, if you bought a sex toy,
so I have a
and it's worth
vibrator
more
that's
now,
used. I can.
and
This
it's
is my
worth more
perfect
now because
vibrator.
it was used by Jersey Mike. Yeah.
Hey, Justin, that's very interesting because we tend to think of sex toys as being small objects, but they're coming out with AI robots for these dolls, and these things are like $5,000, $10,000, so on and so forth.
Well,
and I presume that if you upgrade with the technology,
for the battery, yeah. Well,
right.
Well,
so maybe we should petition our politicians to. Bring that portion of the show back, right?
So
I
don't know if anybody's going to change that back. It's going to be Trump. So do it while he's in office.
Let's go.
Here.
All right. So listen. So this doctor, I guess psychologist, her name is Dr. Carolina Guzman, and she says that having sex toys when you're in isolation for a long time will lift your spirits. I can tell you to lift more than that. I don't remember what else. What will it lift? Besides your spirits, especially if you're having some spirits while you're doing the lifting. Okay.
Speaking of
Now to
spirits.
move on. All right, you ready? All right, now.
Absolutely.
Here, now this is good. Now this, okay, people have to give, because they're, all the businesses, we talked about this, businesses are going out of business, small ones, and they're all trying to survive. So you have to get very resourceful, okay? You ready for this one? There's a bakery in Helsinki, Finland. Now, because of course this is global, they were going under. This lady has 9 employees in a bakery, and it's going to go under. Well, they got this right. Now remember, there was a toilet paper shortage. You ready?
Mhm.
So she got this bright idea, started making cakes to look like rolls of toilet paper. And they're flying off the shelf. She's so busy that she had to hire 2 more employees.
Now let me ask you a question. Do they taste like shit?
No, but I will tell you this. Listen, when she makes the cake.
Sorry, Justin. I had to ask.
Wait a minute.
You're making it look like toilet paper. And what's the inside? Chocolate?
Wait a minute. No, I was going to say, yeah. I hope she doesn't use, when she makes the cakes, she doesn't use chocolate drops, peanuts, or corn to decorate the cakes.
And since we've got coronavirus going on, I hope they sanitize their hands when they're doing all this stuff after they make the cake.
After they make the cake.
Human ingenuity knows no limits.
But that's a great idea. I mean, she took what she had to be resourceful. So what do you do? So when you give them lemons,
and who knows? She might have a boom with this and have to get a bigger bakery and do a 1031 and look out and reach out to Justin. I don't know if he works in Helsinki, but what the heck?
I
don't even know if they have a 1031 over there.
In the world of real estate, just like every other business, you want to be opportunistic when you can be. Right? I mean, the financial crisis, there are a lot of people that built a lot of wealth buying real estate when prices were low. You want to be opportunistic.
Yeah, sure. Justin, let me ask you a question. Since
toilet paper.
Jersey, since you mentioned Helsinki, Finland, I got a question for you, Justin. So let me ask you this. Let's say you're a U.S. investor in foreign property. Does that disqualify the 1031?
It qualifies for a 1031 exchange. You can defer the U.S. domestic piece of that tax, but you have to reinvest the money outside of the U.S. So you sell a foreign property, you got to buy a foreign property. You sell domestically, you sell in the U.S., you got to buy domestically in the U.S.
But you can't do you can't mix and match. You can't have a U.S. property sold and purchase a foreign property or vice versa. And do you know the reasoning behind that? Why the restriction on that portion of the show?
I've never looked into it.
Where do we go with this? Where's this?
That's pretty interesting. I would have thought they wouldn't even allow it. Go ahead, Jersey. Go ahead.
You're going from Helsinki, Finland. You're going off your 4-wheeling. Get back on the road. We got to be crazy. We're way too serious. You got to be serious. People don't want to be sad. They want to laugh. Now I'm going to give you. Okay. Now here we go. Coronavirus. Now this is really funny too. You know how everybody, the new thing is staying at home and Zoom, everybody's doing Zoom. And older people, everybody's not used to it. It's like a new platform where people are not only doing business, their job, socializing or whatever. Well, here you go. Here's stupidity. You ready? In Spain, there's a Spanish news anchor that is going to do a show. All right. Of course, because you're anchoring the show, but from Zoom.
I've heard that.
Right?
Yep.
Here's this stupid son of a bitch. He's married. He's in a hotel room, going to do his Zoom, okay? He didn't know how to work the angle on the camera. First of all, he's sitting there with no pants on, all right? Right? Wait a minute. Here's insult to injury, okay? In the background, there's Debbie. Debbie, you're right in time.
There we go.
She's coming.
Looks like you're on your smartphone, Debbie.
I'm on my phone. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know.
That's okay. Listen,
we're glad you're back.
Wait a minute. It was perfect, the fact that I missed out on all the sex talk.
I'm still on that. All right, listen. So this guy, all of a sudden he's married. He's doing his anchor show. He's got no pants on. But in the background, the stupid girl, his mistress, was in the background walking around half naked with a towel on. Okay? Now, wait a minute. Talk about getting caught with your pants down? Literally.
Yes.
Must have had some amazing ratings that particular show, I would say, huh? Must have had some awesome ratings.
You know what's so
Find something
funny?
to do
You
while
don't
you're
realize
quarantined.
some people have, there's a lot of homes that were built that have mirrors everywhere. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just don't think of things because this is a whole new environment that we're in, right? So you're videotaping yourself. You don't realize that there's a reflection. They can see everything behind you. You have no clue. Because I bet you all you guys today right now probably don't have any pants on. That's what I'm just thinking.
Oh, don't you wish, girlfriend?
You want me to stand up? Want me to show you just exactly how Italian
Keep that package down there, buddy.
Wait a minute. Michael, the camera's
That's
not
a
big
gamble
enough
I don't want to take.
view all of that.
That's a gamble I don't want. That happened recently. There was an anchor who was set up with his laptop, and he was wearing a jacket and a tie and no pants. And you can see
no
it.
pants. That's why I had my senior picture taken in high school. We've been doing that for years. No pants.
Hey, I got to tell you, I think that the reality is society is finally catching up. I think that people are going to go casual on the top as well, because what you have in here doesn't really matter what you're wearing. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of people are fixated on having to get dressed up, and that's supposed to change what you have in here. You know, so I think that that's going to become less and less important as it should be. I mean, you know, there's a place and time to get dressed up. But,
it's just like going to school wearing a uniform. It's so much better because it levels the playing field so that people aren't looking at you and bullying you because of whether you can afford more expensive clothing and what you're wearing. Everybody's the same, wear the same outfit, and then you don't have to worry about the hair.
Listen, the gateway's already open. You got people walking around with their PJs outside, right? So, hey, why not?
Hey, well, here's more stupidity. Here's more stupidity. Now, this is our own Supreme Court. You ready for this one? The Supreme Court, I mean, this is not really that bad, but the Supreme Court was, I guess, having a meeting. So they're doing the same thing again with Zoom, but they don't know that this meeting is open to the public. Like the public, you can hear what's going on, I guess, the minutes or whatever to their meeting. Well, all of a sudden, because I guess they don't know how social media works or the new technology, whatever, all of a sudden.
I don't think Ruth Bader Ginsburg has an Instagram.
What?
I said, I don't think Ruth Bader Ginsburg is good on Instagram.
I don't think so.
It's a little after their time.
Well, what happened was, so one of these Supreme Court justices, all of a sudden, I guess, whatever, he's in his house, all of a sudden you hear the toilet flush. He's like sitting on the toilet, having a meeting with the Supreme Court, and he doesn't know that everybody can hear it and everybody heard it.
So he's not full of shit anymore. Is that what you're telling me?
He's not full of shit.
He was, but
and I hope he doesn't mistake the roll of toilet paper for a cake.
Do you know which Supreme Court justice it was?
No, but I will tell you, I have another story we're going to save because we're running out of time, but it has to do with smart toilets. I'm going to save that for another show. I have a lot of zany
let's ask Justin how people can get in touch with you. How can somebody reach out to you if they're thinking about doing a 1031 like-kind exchange? How do they reach you?
1031dst.com. 1031dst.com.
There you go.
Investment Group. There we go, folks.
Okay, Jersey, you want to lasso this in?
Yes, I do. We're running out of time. So listen up, folks out there. Thank you very much for writing in. Like I said, I say this on every show, we appreciate your comments. If you have any questions or a topic you want us to cover, feel free to write us. We do read all the messages for sure. So on behalf of myself, Jersey Mike from Real Deal Property Sharks, I want to thank our guest, Justin, for coming on the show today. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Justin.
it. Thanks for having me, my man.
Thanks, Justin.
Always entertaining. The always entertaining Jersey Mike.
And Coach Nick and Deborah Face, we want to say we are out of here.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.